All right, class, today we are going to be starting out chapter 6, lesson 1, one-step addition and subtraction equations. One-step addition and subtraction equations. These are things that you probably have learned before in the past, I think in 6th grade or maybe even before that. So we're going to go over it. We're going to do adding and subtracting. Then the next day, multiplication and division, and then we'll kind of get a little bit harder from there. But so far, these ones are pretty basic, pretty simple. So we'll start with some vocabulary to start. You're going to see the problem, the wording going to be in kind of two different ways. It's either going to say solve or possibly find the solution. That means same thing. And what this means is you're trying to find out what the variable means. Okay, so solve or find the solution. And what that means is your goal here is to isolate the variable, okay? To get the variable all by itself. You want to find out what x equals, what y equals, whatever the variable in the equation is. That's the goal here, okay? So we're going to work at that. Again, it's something that you're going to see a lot in this year, in this chapter, and then also in the future, especially in like 8th grade math, as you do kind of more like algebra related things. Solving for the variable, find the solution. Okay, another vocabulary word that we want to talk about is inverse operations. Okay, inverse operations. Now, inverse operations, they sound pretty much like they you would probably imagine. Inverse meaning kind of like the opposite. So, for example, if you were to say, what is the inverse of addition, right? The inverse, I'll make a little table here, would be subtraction, right? And if you had subtraction, the inverse would be addition. Basically, it's whatever undoes the certain thing. So if you were to add 5, the inverse would be to subtract 5, right? If you were to subtract 10, the inverse would be to add 10. Same thing with multiplication. The inverse is division. And for division, the inverse is multiplication. So they're just opposites. They undo each other. And that's a big thing that I'm going to talk about is if you understand what is happening, then you can undo the situation. You can do the inverse. An example I like to use is if you were to go outside, you are going to go from inside to outside, you put on your shoes. The inverse of that is when you come back inside, you take off your shoes, right? Inverse, so you put your shoes on, take your shoes off. Those are inverse operations, right? They get you back to where you started, which is just your foot or just your foot with a sock. Okay. So that's what we want to try to do. We want to try to understand. If you understand what's happening, then you can undo it, right? If you understand that you tied your shoe, then you're going to understand that you need to untie it to get back to where you started, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about, inverse operations here. So let's start with a nice and easy example here. We have x plus 6 is equal to 8. Now, I'm going to show you some formatting things that I think are going to help you a lot. The first thing is there's two sides to this equation. Well, first thing I said, there is an equation because there's an equal sign, right? Before, what we dealt with in all chapter 5 were just expressions. There were no equal signs. We were just trying to simplify. Now we're trying to actually find out what x is equal to. Now, I know you could probably do this in your head, but I'm going to show you how you would do it kind of with work. Again, this will help us more later when we get to harder problems. So the first thing I like to do is I like to draw a wall. Okay, a great wall is what I like to call it because I'm Chinese, so I like to say it's a great wall. So we have a great wall. This side. So now you know there's a left side and a right side of your wall. Also, the equal signs always go inside the wall, so you work straight down. That way, you know what exactly what steps you're doing, and that's kind of a really important thing. Okay, so on this one, we see, okay, I have plus 6. So I have the x over here, and I want to get the x by itself. I want to isolate the variable. So in order to isolate the variable, the one thing that is bothering this x is the plus 6. So I'm going to do the inverse of plus 6, which is subtract 6. Now, what I do on one side, I have to do to the other. You have to imagine that equations are like scales. Anything you do on one side, if you add on one side, you have to add on the other. You have to If you subtract one side, you're subtracting the other. It's what we call the golden rule of algebra. What you do one side, you do to the other. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. And I know I'm going really slow for this one, just so we can kind of see. Now, why did I want to do that? Well, let's see what happens. If I subtract 6 from both sides, okay, what ends up happening? Well, on the left side, we get exactly what we want, which is positive 6 and negative 6. Sorry, erase that. Positive 6 and negative 6 cancel out, and all that I'm left with is this. If it didn't get touched, it drops straight down, is I'm left with x. You see that? So x is the only thing that's left over. And then I have 8 minus 6, which is a positive 2. And again, the equal sign goes in here, and I can box my answer. So I know that x is equal to 2. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, Mr. Liang, I knew that. I could just say 2 plus 6 equals 8. Yes, I know that, and that's good. It's just in the beginning, I just wanted to take it nice and slow. Now, what's also really important in these problems is that you're able to check your work. And that's the beauty of this kind of math, is you can definitely know if you're right or wrong, no matter what. So it doesn't matter if I'm grading it and I'm having a bad day, I can't punch you. I can't say, I don't like this kid, I'm gonna give him a bad grade. Like, if you get it right, you'll know for sure because you can check it. So let's go ahead and do the check work here. So in order to check it, I'm gonna take the original equation and I'm gonna plug in what my answer was, which was x equals 2. So right here, so 2. So 2 plus 6 should equal 8. And I know 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 equals 8, so I know that checks out. So I know my answer is correct. X equals 2 is my answer. It's very important that you're able to check your work because, again, sometimes we add and subtract and something gets a little bit weird. So we got to make sure we check our work. Eventually, you can kind of do more of the check in your head, but especially on quizzes, I would take the time to really check my work and see if I got it right. Okay, let's do another one here. Y minus 4 is equal to negative 2. Now, this is what I see a lot of people do sometimes. They say, okay, I got it, Mr. Leong. I want to get rid of the 4, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to subtract 4 from here, just like that. Sorry, first thing I should draw my wall. Okay. Now, you could see what the problem is. This time you shouldn't subtract because you end up with negative 4 and negative 4, which isn't 0. That's negative 8. And now you ended up with y minus 8, and you didn't get any closer to getting the variable by itself. So this is not going to work. Another thing that I see a lot of people do on a problem like this is they might say, oh, I got you, Mr. Leong. I'm going to subtract away or add the, I see there's a minus 2 over here, so I'm going to go ahead and add 2. And they do it like that. Again, that doesn't help. You always do the work on the side where the variable is, okay? This one doesn't work again because, yes, this becomes 0, but this isn't anywhere closer to where we want to be. So this doesn't work either. These are some common mistakes that I see. People subtracting the wrong thing, subtracting when they're supposed to add, or sort of trying to go always from one side or the other. So what you want to do, let's start this over, is again, think about it. I've got y minus 4 equals negative 2. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to draw my wall. And then the second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to find the variable, right? Where's the variable? There it is, y. That's what I want by itself. So that means I need to get rid of whatever is by that. I see there's a minus 4. So that means I need to do the inverse operation, which is to do what? Which is to add 4 on both sides. Now I see that the negative 4 and the positive 4, now I see that those guys are going to cancel out. And I'm left with just y. When I say cancel, it makes 0, and I have to write 0. Then I get negative 2 and positive 4, which again, the Pirates win on that one. So that'll be a positive 2. Let's check my answer to make sure. Y minus 4 is equal to negative 2. And so let's see, I said y is supposed to be 2. Let's see if it works. 2 minus 2 should equal, or sorry, 2 minus 4 rather. Is that true? Keep switch change. Yep, that's -2 is equal to -2. I'm good to go. All right, some of the ones that you might see, and again, hopefully you kind of get the idea that if you see a subtraction, you should do adding. If you see an adding, you should do a subtraction. That's the basis of what's going on today. All right, let's do a few more of these just to make sure we got them. Okay. -5 plus m is equal to 7. So again, what I would do here is I would say, okay, I'm gonna draw my wall. And again, I locate the variable, which is m, right here. And then I'm gonna say, okay, well, let me, I see that's on -5, so I'm gonna add 5 on both sides. Those cancel out. I'm left with m is equal to a positive 12. And we could do the check a little bit quicker now. We could say, okay, well, -5 plus 12 should equal 7. Is that true? Yeah, 7 equals 7. So that checks out. I can do my check really kind of quick and easy there. Okay. All right, let's do another one here. What if the variable's on the other side? -12 is equal to -4 plus c. Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky. Again, draw my wall. Sorry, I shouldn't box an answer here. All right, I see again, I find the variable. So a lot of people, what they do is they're so used to the variable being on the left side. I see this all the time where people put, they'll put a plus 12 right here. But remember, the variable, we always do the work with the side that the variable is. And that, in this case, it's c. So we got to do the work where the variable is. So we wouldn't subtract 12 instead, or add 12. Instead, we see that the -4 is in the way. So we're going to add 4 instead. I draw my line there, I simplify. So again, let's see if it works out. -4 and +4, those cancel out. That's good. So I'm left with just c here. And then -12 and +4. And this is where it gets tricky because sometimes we make mistakes in our adding and subtracting. So that's why I would really encourage you guys to check your work. So here we go. -12 plus 4 is I get a -8. Let's check it. -12 should equal -4 plus a -8. That's what I got for C. Is that true? Yep. 4 ninjas and 8 more ninjas make 12 total ninjas. So that's good. So I can say that that is my answer with an equal sign. C equals -8. Right? So we've done 4 types of different problems. They're all kind of similar, right? So we're kind of looking back at these problems. First off, we said, okay, if we have adding, then we know we need to subtract. If we have subtraction, like letter B, and again, these are counterexamples. These are not the way to do it. You have to understand, hey, I need to get rid of, I need to undo what's already there. Okay. In this case, I had to add on both sides, right? So you see this step here, adding 4 on both sides. In this case, letter C, we had a problem where it was a -5, but to get rid of a -5, you actually just add 5, same thing. So again, we added 5. And on this one, we said, okay, well, we have a -4, but it's on the right side. That's okay. We do the exact same thing, right? So again, we make sure that we find the variable and do the work on that side, okay? And then also, what's really important is that we do all of our check work here, okay? So make sure we're checking off our work, because if we get something wrong, then that's okay, as long as we check it and then we make sure, right? So pretty simple to start, hopefully, just these 1-step. Hopefully we get really good at these ones, because once we get to 2-step, it'll be a little bit more difficult, all right? And that's all.